Today we are going to pretend that we are surveyors, and you are going to get this handout as well as two triangles. You'll work in partners, and it's going to help us determine the height of objects that we can't measure because they are too tall. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you using our classroom, like how tall is our classroom, as an example. I'm going to use my 45, 45, 90 triangle to measure the height of the ceiling. So I'm holding the triangle up to my eye, and I want to find the point. I'm going to walk backwards until the point reaches the top of the ceiling. Alright, and then I'm going to mark this point on the ground with a piece of tape so I can measure how far I am away from the wall. And then that'll tell me how tall the wall is using some math with my 45, 45, 90 triangle. You may want help from your partner on this step because you want to measure how far from the object you were measuring. I was measuring the wall, like the height of the ceiling, or the height of this wall, and I put some tape down on the ground so I could measure from the wall, and my partner helped me hold the measuring tape. And you can see we can either use the 58 inches or 148 centimeters. It's going to be an approximation. I'll just use the 58 inches. You also need to measure the height from the ground up to your eyes. So my partner will help me video that. My eye is going to be more than this measuring tape. This measuring tape is 60 inches, so about here, and then I'm probably going to add a couple inches to that, to right here. So 61.5 will be the height from the ground up to my eye. 61.5. Okay, so on my handout, I'm going to write the object would be the wall, the height of the wall. And the distance to the object, I believe it was 58 inches. And my eye height was 61.5 inches. Because it's a 45 triangle, the distance from the wall and the height of the wall up into my eyes will be the same. So this will also, my preliminary height will also be 58 inches. Now, if you look at this picture, this diagram, we have the preliminary height, we have the eye height. We have to add those two together to get the actual height. 109.5 inches. Now I could check that if I had a ladder, but the point of this is that I do not have a ladder. You will not copy this down onto your paper unless you want to copy it above the table, because you're going to do three objects that are different from my wall. You're going to pick the height of three things. All right, and then we're going to do the 60-30 and the 30-60 triangle. So I'll show you how that works.
So now we're using the 30-60 triangle, and we've measured my eye height, and it is 57 inches. We had also measured the distance from the ceiling. It's on the eye height. And make sure that this is parallel to the ground, or sorry, I was holding it the other way. And we came up with this mark on the floor. Make sure we're kind of in the middle. And after measuring this distance to the wall, that came out to, what was it? Sorry, 48.5 inches. Now, the object that we're measuring is still the height of the wall. My distance to object was 48.5. My eye height was 57 inches. And now with the 30-60 triangle, it's going to be a different formula because the height will be x square root of 3. So we would take 48.5 square root of 3. And we can use our calculator for that. And then we came up with second square, 84.00 or 4, and we can round that up to 84 inches. And now the actual height is to just add the preliminary height with the eye height, so plus 57 and 141. And that's it.
Awesome. So what I found out was on the first problem that I did for the wall, my distance to the object was kind of off because I did it again with the 45, 45, 90 triangle and ended up getting 80 inches as the distance to the object, which would increase my actual height to closer to 130, which is close to the 141 that Miss Leugen got. But because we're doing this 3 different times, we could just take the average of all of our actual heights and figure out the height of the wall by doing the average of all of our measurements. Do the 30, 60, 90, and hopefully it's parallel. Is it parallel?
Yep.
All right, and I'm gonna walk backwards from the wall until I get to this point. This tip is at the height of the wall, which is about here when I look up. And now I'm going to look down at my feet, and in the center of my feet, like where my eyes would be, the center of my body, I'm going to put my piece of tape. This is pretty far from the wall, so I'm going to need my partner to help me measure the distance from the wall with the measuring tape in inches. I'm going to use my same height from before when we work on the worksheet. We had to kind of hold the tape and move it as we went and made it taut. So this is where my partner helped me. But it was 2 of these, which is 60 plus 60, and then 8 inches more. So 128 inches. Our paper. So we are still doing the wall. And this time, my preliminary height would be this part, or this is my distance actually, 128, but I need to convert it into root 3. So I have to do 128 divided by the square root of 3. So the distance to the object would be 70, I'm going to round it to 74. My preliminary height is going to be, oh, I'm sorry, this is 128 inches. But when I divide it by the square root of 3, that's actually the preliminary height. This would have been 128. But the way that I got from the distance to the preliminary is I did 128 divided by the square root of 3. So my x is 74. My eye height was 61.5. So I want to add 61.5. And I get 135.4 inches. So I'm just going to round it. And you can see that 135 is closer to 141. So this one was quite off, and it had to do with how I was holding my triangle. If I took the average of all of these, that would be close to the height of the wall.